All right, friends. So I'll make this short. I apologize. I don't have my microphone, so the audio is not going to be fantastic for this. But I wanted to make this quick video. I'm going to make a breakdown of the Fetterman Oz debate. I'm going to play it and kind of voice over it a little bit and whatnot, and hope not to get copyright struck or anything like that. But I'm gonna do that tonight too. I'm going to try to find the video. Sometimes it takes a little while for it to get put up or whatever. I don't want to find some janky version. I want to find the actual debate itself. But I want to give you a quick 5 minute, recap of the debate. Um, if you were to ask me who won the debate, short answer is Oz. Now, I think that you assume that I was gonna say that, right? I mean, given my other YouTube videos and just given the clear fact that Fetterman was struggling significantly. But I will explain a little bit more why Oz won. I think in many different ways. Now, the problem is that the media are crooks, and that's just a fact. It's the way it is. I get it. If you're a Democrat, you might not think that. Although I do think that most Democrats have like a basic understanding of the fact that, in agreement that the fact that, to the fact that the media is filled with crooks. And so why do I say that? Well, because I mean, not only did John Fetterman able to cut in, and I get it that they were giving him a little bit more leeway because of his illness and whatnot, but he was able to cut in numerous times into Dr. Oz when Dr. Oz was speaking. But he was also able to lie like blatantly without being called out for it. And again, I did feel like they were trying to give him a little bit more. I feel like they felt bad for him a little bit, and I do get that. I mean, he's ill. He's not well. So I do understand feeling bad for him, but he's choosing to run for Senate. And so I just hope that people don't that sympathy doesn't translate into votes, because it shouldn't. It really shouldn't. So from the jump, even in opening statement, Fetterman was confused at different areas. I thought that he did an okay job in the beginning. I mean, all things considering, I did not think he did a good job by any means. And he struggled quite a bit. There was many times, they introduced the closed captioning television first, and I think that it was pretty clear that there was a problem. There were many times where he had to pause, where he fumbled up his words, and there were a couple times, and this is where my fear is for the state and for the country if he was to win. There were a couple times where his words got significantly in the way of him. So what he was trying to say, and you'll see this in my breakdown, was different than what came out. And so that's concerning when you have a candidate that is running for national office, right, to represent the state of Pennsylvania, that can't speak clearly, at all. Okay. And it also was clear too that it seemed clear in ways that his cognitive function was not all there. Not to say that he was a million steps behind. I think that he was thinking clearly, but he could not form the words to represent his views. And to me, that's a little bit scary. They did ask him about his medical records, so I still get over that cold. And he did say that he was not going to put out his medical records. He dodged, and they let him get away with dodging that question. And those are the problems I have with the media. I mean, Trump would never get away with something like that if this was a Trump versus, Fetterman debate. Trump was the one that had the problem, right, or whatever. But they asked him the question about his medical records. He said, "No, I'm not going to release them." And then they moved off it. They didn't press him at all. There's a lot of questions that we should have surrounding it. Why? If those medical records would assist him in any way, as a matter of fact, if those medical records didn't work against him in some way, then you don't think he'd release him? Of course he'd release him. Why wouldn't he release him? I mean, if you just think logically for a second, if you are in a race like this and you have something like that can quell people's fears, and can definitely drum up more votes for you, which it definitely can. There's enough people out there, independents, that would be like, okay, I'll vote for this guy if he can prove that he's medically okay. There's enough people that don't like Dr. Oz that would have an impact on the race. So if there wasn't something severely wrong, or if the doctors were actually comfortable clearing him, and he referenced like a Dr. L or something like that, then he would use that in his campaign, definitely. Okay. So he was asked about numerous things, and Fetterman in the beginning made it a point to say Dr. Oz lies when he's on TV, and then he kept going back to that kind of cheap, "Oh, see, it's Dr. Oz, the Dr. Oz effect, the Dr. Oz effect." And I thought it was cheap and insincere and pathetic, because he couldn't point out where Dr. Oz was lying. He just could point out that he was lying. Where Dr. Oz actually pointed to where Fetterman was lying, which was on almost every topic. It was actually blatantly insane. He has said numerous times in the past, I mean, up until like very recently, that he thinks that fracking should be outlawed, that he does not agree with fracking at all. And then he said here that he's always supported fracking. Not that he now supports fracking, that he has always supported fracking. He overtly did not support fracking forever. Okay. And now he all of a sudden does. He said that he denied that I forget exactly what it was, which one was it? That he wanted to let people out of jail in the way that he had said that he clearly wanted to let people out of jail. He said that he believed in border security and having a secure border, so on and so forth, which is just blatantly not true. There were so many different instances. When we go through the breakdown, I'll point them out to you where he's lied numerous times, but it was so abundantly clear that he was just not telling the truth. But this is what Democrats do, and they get away with it. That's the problem. They get away with it. So he's pointing to Dr. Oz, and he's not, and he's saying this guy's lying, this guy's lying, this guy's lying. He clearly is lying. I thought Dr. Oz, did I like all his answers? No, because I don't like all his policy. I'm not a fan of Dr. Oz by any means, but I definitely have accepted him as a good candidate for Senate. I think he would do a good job of representing this state, regardless of whether or not he's from here. It does not matter to me at all. Honestly, you could live in Florida as long as you are representing this state the right way. That's what I care about, your policy. And what you do, things of substance. I thought Dr. Oz answered questions great on trade schools and what we should do with them. I thought he, spoke elegantly about his care for this country and about the American dream. I thought that his support for, lowering crime in violent cities like Philadelphia was good. His support for water security. So there was in his support for fracking too. Dr. Oz was pressed more on fracking than Fetterman was, even though Fetterman blatantly lied. Dr. Oz, they pointed to a thing that he wrote back in 2014, I think it was, where he said that he wanted to see what studies of fracking happened before he supported it. But that's it. We're now 8 years away from that now, and maybe he just found the facts and needed to find it, or maybe like me, you recognize that you have to balance the effect on the economy and health with the effect on growing our energy independence, right? And so that's like, to me, like, ideally, if we could do this without drilling for oil or fracking or whatever, then sure, I mean, I'd love it. That would be great. But I just accept that you have to make sacrifices, unfortunately. So, I'm going to give a deep dive breakdown, but I wanted to give my quick view. I think Dr. Oz clearly won the debate. I don't think that it was, fair by any means, but that's because of, again, John Fetterman's own doing. Remember, he lied in the primary. Okay. It was 4 days before the primary vote. He lied about his stroke, hid that from the people of Pennsylvania, and then they went out and voted for him, and so that now he became their candidate. So his campaign is completely funded by lies, and is completely supported by lies. So vote Dr. Oz. There's only a few days left to go, so thank you very much. And remember, every person you can show this to, speak to, whatever, find a different video and show them if you want, but get every person you can to vote for Dr. Oz. We need this. I'll tell you, the other thing the media did, which I thought was obnoxious, was they kept calling him Mr. Oz, demeaning him. It's demeaning him. When you have a doctor, you call him doctor, right? Like, I've always known that. If I go to a customer's house in my job currently, and I say, oh, Mr. Smith, then they will correct me oftentimes and say, oh no, that's Dr. Smith. And so the media was demeaning him. It was extremely clear. But anyways, check out the debate for yourself, or wait for my assessment of it. We'll be watching it together. Okay, thank you very much. Have a great night.